So I was meaning to do a vid on what I saw, yet again, Resisting the Lies channel, but I'd put it on the back burner, but when I saw this, churches should baptise asylum seekers, says new Archbishop of Canterbury. And honestly, when you look historically, especially recent history as regards to churches, their focus on helping people from other countries come to our countries. Yeah. Now, call me old-fashioned here, but there was a time where the churches at least inferred that they were interested in the poor and the homeless. Yeah, that was a priority at one stage. But they don't seem to care about them anymore. But they're vastly motivated about getting people from other nations, especially third world nations, into our countries. Yeah. And I mean, I've inferred it certainly over the years that I would say that when you look at a lot of the churches, they're wall to wall with the cultists, and it ties into that as above, so below. You know, whatever you perceive they are, they're actually the polar opposite. Yeah, I mean, what better way to hide your occult shenanigans than to present yourself as something else entirely? Yeah. But so the story, yeah. The new Archbishop of Canterbury says that churches should not feel anxious about baptising asylum seekers in the face of concerns about fake conversions. Dame Sarah Mullally, okay. Okay, who will move into Lambeth Palace next year, claimed that due to the persecution faced by millions of Christians around the world, people may wait until they are in the UK to publicly declare their faith. So the Archbishop of Canterbury designate made her comments as she raised her concern over a call in Parliament for the rejection of refugee claims on grounds of religious persecution, where the person converted after arriving in the UK. Now, you've certainly seen stories where it's absolutely the case that they've used it as an excuse to remain in the UK. And you can absolutely see that the churches are actively involved in making that happen. And yeah, for many, that is a disappointment, the motivations of the churches. But I would argue, I mean, really, they are absolutely complicit, absolutely in what's going on. No two doubts about it. And so I go back to Resisting the Lies vid on this one called Inverness Asylum Seekers Compassion and Hate Speech and Under Fair Use. Let's play you some of this.
Prepared to meet tomorrow to discuss plans to move 300 asylum seekers to a former army base in Inverness.
Now remember, this former army base, yeah, they're evicting, they're literally kicking out the Queen's Own Highlanders Regimental Association base there, and well, veterans. And think about this. Yeah. I mean, they don't see the numbers. And at some stage they say, due to, with a battalion being deployed overseas, which I think is very telling, the military families living directly behind the barracks have voiced serious concerns. And for good reason, yeah. I mean, I've seen a number of variations on this story, but not a word said about that. Not a word said about it in this, but from STV.
Community leaders in the city are appealing for reasoned debate and calm. Concerns have been raised online over the proposals for Cameron Barracks, with a petition against the plans gathering pace. Charities and groups say the move must be managed properly, but also with compassion. Nicola McCally reports.
It's just over a week since plans to house 300 asylum seekers at Cameron Barracks were revealed. Since then, the issue has...
Now remember, this is 7 days ago, but I mean, you'd think, and remember, they're having to spend money on upgrading the whole place for these people who we didn't invite. Well, the church might have, but we didn't. Yeah. I would argue when it comes to veterans, these places should be made more efficient, absolutely. But these fine people, if it's no longer used in its initial purpose, it should be converted into phenomenal apartments and accommodation for veterans and their families. Things like that, yeah, would make good sense, absolutely. But no, there's no money for that. They have to keep going to charities. I've always said, I'm very much for the poppy and the reminder of what many fine men and women have done and made the ultimate sacrifice in many instances, or maimed for the rest of their lives, or disabled in some way that absolutely is life-changing in all the negative ways. But no, none of that. No, there's not money for that when it comes to what we're told about obligations, international obligations and all the rest of it. And so much is spent on everybody else except their own. And from day to day, it just gets worse for people, native people to the UK, who have made so many efforts, throughout life. And it's this.
Cause division politically and in the community. Online, a petition against the move has reached over 10,000 signatures. With talks of protests and counter-protests, community leaders are appealing for a reasoned debate and some compassion.
They will move.
All of that, I mean, good God, even this, and with the water aspect and paganism and a few other things, it's it's certainly not very Christian when you think about it, but yeah.
Passion.
They will move away from everything that they know and the support of family and friends. So that was what kind of stirred us to want to say, there's something different. There are people behind this. These people are somebody's son, somebody's brother.
Highland-based children's camp.
So the churches don't give a shit about you and I. And of course we're told that every child is inherently, genetically racist. And instead of learning all the fundamental importance in life, like arithmetic, English, languages, skills, skill base, nurturing of that, all the rest of it, no. We'll have a bunch of, we'll just keep reinforcing that you're all racist.
Campaigners spoke up online against hate speech and say language used in the debate.
Language, of course, again. Mindfulness to the point where you no longer say anything for fear of offending anybody, any interpretation, nothing. Say less and less over time, accept what we tell you. And we tell you that you're all racist, homophobic, transphobic, X, Y, and Z phobic. And you're just the scum of the earth, and we're just trying to politely, right from nursery onwards, tell you that, you're a disappointment.
Is important.
It was just quite a simple reminder that we're all role models for children and they're watching our behaviour right now. That children will be looking at every post, every comment on Facebook, and they're...
Although, the last thing I would say children are by and large on is Facebook, but anyway.
Learning from that, and if they start to realise that that's acceptable, then that's the way they're going to behave when they go into schools.
It's definitely what she's really saying there. It's a dig at the parents. That's exactly what that is. Absolutely, that's what it is.
Children's campaigners spoke up online against hate speech and say language used in the debate is important.
It was just quite a simple reminder that we're all role models for children and they're watching our behaviour right now. That children will be looking at every post, every comment on Facebook, and they're learning from that. And if they start to realise that that's acceptable, then that's the way they're going to behave when they go into schools.
Tomorrow.
So basically, it's the home influence that makes them all racist before they even come into schools, and we're here to just re-educate them from their racist DNA.
Highland councillors will hold a special meeting to discuss how the region will deal with the issue. It had been claimed the authority had not been consulted on the plans, but it's emerged an invitation to an online meeting had been missed in early October.
It's a challenge, of course, and I'll be looking for reassurances because it is, after all, in the centre of Inverness and it's going to have a big impact on people. Security is obviously part of this plan, but overall, I want to see the...
Yeah. So he basically says in everything but name the third sector, private, public partnerships, etc. Yeah.
Organisations, public, private, voluntary, working together, cooperating.
We need to know who they are, so we need to know what languages they speak and what their background is, but most of all, we need to welcome the...
So remember, most of them won't actually know English. We need to know what their languages are to adapt to them. Think about it. This is basically the inference. Yeah.
We need to know what languages they speak and what their background is, but most of all, we need to welcome these people into Inverness, and we need to reassure the public.
The colour purple, Highland Council, the colour purple. You see, Rachel Reeves wearing a lot of that lately. I mean, honestly, you know, when I keep mentioning it now and again, but is it between politicians and the church, like the sort of tie between them, that I mean, are many of these occultist politicians doing the occultist church's work, and that's part of the, you know, the occult mockery?
Today, Scottish Secretary Douglas Alexander said it was unfair to say there had been no dialogue with the relevant authorities.
The legal obligation.
Legal obligation. Seriously. Well, we don't have any kind of democracy when the public's absolutely against all this. But no, sod that, because we have legal obligations. Woohoo! Seriously. Woohoo!
We have as a UK government to provide...
As a UK government, yeah? We are servile to the UK government, not the other way around. That's basically it, seriously.
appropriate accommodation to asylum seekers.
The appropriate accommodation to asylum seekers. I know I keep saying this, right? But you absolutely know they could have solved homelessness in the whole of the UK overnight for a fraction of what's being spent, yeah, on this ongoing shit show. Yeah, seriously.
Is one that is a...
Think of how many businesses, industries, all the rest of it could be resurrected with a fraction of the money being spent on housing and ever largening of our population with low IQ'd individuals that do not, by and large, hold our interests at heart and are in no way willing to adapt to our culture and history. Nah. This is an ongoing shit show.
Matter of significant public sensitivity.
They absolutely know that you can guarantee when these refugees, as they call them, turn up, that Inverness is going to start having major problems, especially in relation to women. What will happen to women? They know wherever these people go, there is problem. Women and children. There is a massive problem. And all we are told constantly is about international obligations and caring for everybody except ourselves. These people, the churches, are quite literally sacrificing our own people based on an ideology. Yeah, that's at the very least that you can say. Yeah, even if you were being charitable and that they were doing this out of good, they are literally encouraging our own people to be put in harm's way. And none of that phases any of them. Seriously, that connection, when you think about it, between churches, politicians, it's all occult religions. Absolutely it is. There is nobody on the side of native people in the UK when it comes to everything we see in society purporting to be the righteous. Anyway, as always, I could do a better job, seriously, but dear God, it's there in plain sight, and I'll speak to you soon.